Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
To maintain our health and for better health, we need to focus on consuming the entire rainbow of colors offered by vegetables and fruits. More colors on our plate from fruits and veggies leads to better health. I mean, the research is there, and there's a large volume of research. Additionally, of course, reduce our intake of salt, reduce our intake of fats, especially we're really considering saturated fats here. Refined carbohydrates like white bread and white rice. Watch your red meat intake, and when you eat red meat, remove the visible fat. Now, smart plant-based shopping leads to healthier plant-based eating. So what is it about these colors in the fruits and vegetables and your health? More on this, but first, welcome to our episode, Eat the Rainbow. Hi, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a nutritional pharmacist. I'm also the Chief Scientific Officer over here at Invite Health. And there's a whole group of us, naturopathic doctors, dietitians, clinical nutritionists, to help you out at Invite. In any event, foods should not be monotone. That's really important. So you have to introduce a range of plant-based colors. This gives your body protection. It's very protective. It's the phytonutrients in the colors. The phytonutrients, they're pigments in the plants that have a lot of activities. Some of these are polyphenols like resveratrol and silymarin. Others are carotenoids like lycopene and lutein. So I'll go into each of these. They're linked with a reduced risk of diabetes, some cancers, coronary heart disease, the biggest killer in the world, Alzheimer's disease, poor immune system function, and likely also autoimmune diseases. So in general, they keep us healthy. They're also connected to stronger bones, healthier skin, better vision. It just goes on and on. Now focus more on the veggies with some fruit intake. Why do I say that? Well, vegetables are low in sugar. Of course, some of them do have sugar, like a good amount of sugar, like sweet potatoes, but they certainly have the benefits from the pigments in there. But fruits in general have more sugar. So I tell people, you really want to have a plant-based diet, focus more on vegetables and salads, and then have a couple of servings of fresh fruits, especially like citrus fruits, apples, pears, berries. They're super healthy. So let's look at the lowly carrot. Carrots originally came in a whole bunch of colors, and you could still get them at the farmer's market. So carrots come in purples and reds and oranges. But when you go to the grocery store, typically it's orange. And what's that? That's the beta-carotene. And beta-carotene is very important. The natural beta-carotene, in a slow, controlled fashion, you convert it to vitamin A. And vitamin A is important for the auditory processing part of your brain, hearing. But it's also needed to create barriers to infection. We call this the innate immune system. Barriers in the intestines, barriers in the lungs, barriers in your skin, barriers in the urinary tract. So you need vitamin A. You need beta-carotene, obviously, for your skin, for your immune system, for vision, and red blood cell formation. So let's keep on going. What about green veggies? Well, green veggies in general offer ingredients that help you detoxify. Like if you look at broccoli or cabbage or cauliflower, they have indole carbenols that are broken down into something called diindolylmethane that has antiviral activity against like herpes viruses, but also has some ability to protect sexual organs in women, the vulva, endometrial tissue, the ovaries, the uterus, and the breasts, and in men, the prostate. There's also ingredients that stimulate the formation of basically the mother of all antioxidants in the human body, glutathione. Glutathione is very protective for the lungs and the kidneys and the liver and the pancreas and our red blood cells and our white blood cells and our brain and our eyeballs. But glutathione also helps break down toxins. And there's other ingredients in there like isothiocyanates. So in the green veggies, you get all of these wonderful things. Um, and they're also involved with bone health because you even get some strontium and some calcium and some vitamin D2. That's called ergocalciferol in these green veggies. Now, what about yellow veggies? Well, that's really important for your vision and memory. You get zeaxanthin in yellow vegetables. Zeaxanthin is named after corn, the bright yellow color in corn. Corn is called zea maize. This is zeaxanthin. And zeaxanthin is responsible for how quickly your brain processes information, according to some data. But it interacts with another carotenoid pigment called lutein to help you maintain your memory in general, but for great vision. Now, what about the reds? Well, the reds, like in tomatoes and in a ripe guava or ripe papaya or strawberries, but especially in tomatoes. Lycopene, very deep red pigment. And there's a whole bundle, I mean, literally hundreds of studies that lycopene is involved with lowering the risk of a bunch of cancers, helping prevent the age-related swelling of a man's prostate, which we call benign prostatic hypertrophy. Great for keeping the arteries in the heart clean of plaque, and unbelievably protective for your skin, helping prevent damage by ultraviolet radiation. You know, the sun, which ages the skin and discolors the skin and wrinkles the skin and also leads to skin cancers. So the reds in tomatoes, that's the number one place where you could get it, but it's locked up in the fiber of the tomato. So when you cook down the tomato, and especially if you add olive oil to it, like making a tomato sauce or a tomato paste, that's the best way to absorb the lycopene. Now, what about the yellow oranges? Well, you would get that in butternut squash and cantaloupe. That's a combination of lutein and zeaxanthin. And these pigments are really, really responsible for healthy vision long into old age and for memory functions. Issue, it's harder to absorb lutein from your food with age, so that becomes an issue. So I generally tell older people over the age of 50, you have to have some kind of lutein supplement. Plus, statin drugs lower the level of lutein in your body, and that's an important thing to know. When they lower LDL is LDL bad cholesterol. That's what delivers a lot of antioxidants that are lipid soluble, fatty soluble around the body. So when you lower the LDL cholesterol, frequently you're lowering important nutrients, possibly vitamin D, certainly lutein, even coenzyme Q10. Now, what about the purples? Well, you get those in berries. Elegotannins and punicalagins and anthocyanins. They're really important for your brain health. They have antiviral activity. They help protect you from radiation. They're great for your circulation. So those purples, like the blueberries, the blackberries, the raspberries, you know, those bluish purples, very important. Now, what about other reds, like the reds in vegetables? Well, in beets, you have beta-cyanins and betalains, very powerful antioxidants. They help restore circulation to an aging brain. They're very protective for your heart and your circulatory system. They help improve circulation. They help lower your blood pressure if it's elevated. But also, they stimulate the supply of blood to your muscles when you're exercising for a better workout, for increased endurance. But there's also some nitrates in there that interacts with the beta-cyanins. Tart red cherries. They're full of anthocyanins. Similar thing. Now, of course, the beets are a vegetable that has the betalains. The red tart cherries have anthocyanins, which is another red pigment. And these are remarkable for circulatory health. So if you have enough tart cherries before you play tennis or you run or you lift weights or you go dancing, you're going to have more energy and endurance and stamina. You're going to do a better job. But also, once again, they support better circulation, including to the brain, and they support better blood pressure control. Now, what about cocoa? Well, there's flavonols in cocoa, flavonols. These have been shown to help restore circulation to an aging brain because circulation in the brain declines with age. With less circulation, brain cells disappear. So it's good to restore circulation to the aging brain. It's good for your memory. It's good for your mood. But also, these are great for your heart. We look at something called the Framingham Risk Score. The Framingham Risk Score collates a whole bunch of risk factors that increase your risk of coronary heart disease and a stroke and a heart attack. So if you have a high Framingham risk score over the next 10 years, you have an increased risk of dying from a stroke or heart attack or suffering one in the first place. Whereas if you can lower many of these risk factors, well, that's a good thing. Cocoa actually does that. Cocoa has been shown in a number of studies to lower bad cholesterol a little, boost good cholesterol a little bit, improve insulin sensitivity, and reduce insulin resistance. So that's good for your blood sugar. That's good for your blood pressure. That's good for your heart. Green tea. Green tea has catechins. And these catechins are essentially, they've been shown to slow down the aging process. Older people that sup green tea, quality green tea, and don't put milk in it. Milk seems to bind up the good things in the green tea. Squeezing some lemon or other citrus into it kind of improves their absorption, kind of frees them. You get more benefit out of your green tea if you use lemon instead of milk. The thing is, the green tea has been shown to lower the risk of developing frailty syndrome in aging people, like that risk of shrinking and becoming inactive and losing your muscle and becoming less communicative. Now, what about whites? What about white foods? Well, that could be a little confusing. There's Mother Nature's whites, like cauliflower and parsnips and white asparagus. They're loaded with good ingredients. But the man-made whites, the processed foods, like instant oatmeal. Instant oatmeal is basically a bowl of sugar, or white bread or white rice. They're stripped of their nutrients. Now, we include many of these colors in our supplements. We use the natural red from lycopene because it's so good for the prostate and likely women's breast tissue and circulation and the colon, etc. We have the orangey lutein and the yellow zeaxanthin and the pinkish astaxanthin. These boost the antioxidant protection from our multivitamins. But when you eat these foods or you take multis with natural sources of these products in them, they have an effect on your telomere. So what's that all about? Well, your telomere protects your genes. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, your genes last your entire life from the moment of inception until the day you die. And they have the blueprint for everything that's you and everything you do. Like how much energy do you make? How well does your immune system function? But the environment interacts with your DNA and it can cause problems. And see, your DNA never disappears, but cells die. So when one cell's dying, it's going through morphogenesis and it's creating two daughter cells. You're taking your DNA and you're replicating it in the new cells. So if there's been some damage to the DNA, that accrues over life. So if there's been damage from the sun, the ultraviolet radiation, or from a virus, or toxic pesticides or fungicides or herbicides or whatever it might be, toxins released by bacteria in your body, that damage accrues and eventually can cause a tipping point where either the cell dies prematurely and just disappears, it's not replicated anymore, which is a bad part of aging, or because you're disappearing as you age, you're losing muscle, etc. Or you could go into the cancer process. So the way they look at protecting your genes is at the end of the gene, at the end of your DNA, there's these things called telomeres. And one fantastic researcher, she compared it to the ends of the shoelace. The end of the shoelace, I believe, is called an eyelet. When that unfurls, your shoelaces break down. So the telomeres act like the end of a shoelace and protect your DNA. And they lengthen and shorten with age. Bad things shorten them, like a poor diet, lack of exercise, smoking cigarettes, drinking a lot of alcohol, whereas good things lengthen them, like a really good multivitamin or these pigments found in vegetables and fruits or green tea. All of these things have an ability to help lengthen the telomeres. So when you eat these foods, that's kind of like enhancing your lifespan. It's slowing or reversing the aging process, and that's why we exactly add these pigments, the lycopene, the red stuff from tomatoes, the lutein, we get it from marigold flowers, but it's an orangey yellow color, the yellow zeaxanthin, the pinkish astaxanthin, and the beta-carotene, which is amber. That's why we add these to our multivitamins. They have an anti-aging effect, and that's pretty cool. In any event, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. You can find all of our podcasts, all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts, or by visiting InventHealth.com. Just scroll down on our cover page and you'll see a big icon for podcasts. We have several hundred up there. Please subscribe. Please leave me a review. I'd love to know how I'm doing. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at InventHealth. And I hope to see you another time time on another episode of the InVet Health Podcast. Thank you so much for listening.